The next thing I want to talk about is the escalation clause. There's a, I don't know, I think Matt always says strictly for live men, not for freshmen, you know? An escalation clause basically means that you go and you see a property and you put an offer in on it. And in the event that someone outbids me, the price will incrementally go up. What's the downside behind this? How do you know the owner is not just telling you that somebody else put an offer in just to raise your price? How do you know that it's not the owner's cousin or somebody else? So it kind of leaves you in a vulnerable situation. But this is something that you would do if you just had to have this property and you're willing to go a little higher than it typically would sell for. I've used in my 20 plus years, I've used an escalation clause only one time. And the reason why I used an escalation clause was I already owned two buildings that were right next to each other, and I was trying to acquire the third. So I did not want to risk not getting that property. So at that point, I put the escalation clause up that I would pay $10,000 more than any other offer. It actually, I ended up paying about $40,000 more. I ended up paying $40,000 more for the property because they came back like 3 times talking about, oh yeah, we got another offer and we got another offer and yada, yada, yada. Like, could they have been pulling my chain? Yes. But on a $1 million property, $40,000 is really not that big of a deal in your mortgage. And especially if it means having 3 properties in a row, which makes managing much easier and stuff like that. So whenever you put an escalation clause, also keep in mind that you really need to have a tight contract together, and make sure that the offer, you're clear on what you're willing to do, what you're not willing to do, what kind of proof needs to be provided, because it's just like one of the things you have to include in the contract is that that the offer has to come from an agent, and they have to list who the agent is, right? So now it's just, if somebody wants to play a game, it's just more lying that they have to do and more people that they have to get involved, and it also gives you more opportunity to smell something funny if need be. All right. Any questions on this one?
There was a question in the chat, but I think you kind of answered it. Jay said, are they not obligated to disclose a higher bidder when it comes to escalation clause? But I guess it's something you could put in there, right?
Yes, that's something like, depending on how you write it, like if you're off, you don't have to let the other buyers know that you have a escalation clause, but they have to let you know, depending on how you write it.
Jasmine in the chat says, so is adding an escalation helpful in getting the contract given the risk?
It is helpful. It does increase your likelihood of getting the deal done, because the seller knows that you're for real and you're definitely going to end up with it. It's just how much you're going to pay for it. You just don't know. Mm-hmm. So again, I would only go with this strategy in the event that this is a must-have property for you.
Right, because it kind of locks you into having to pay this higher price, right?
It locks you in. And another way that you could get a deal done is by the mentality of putting a large down payment down. So typically people put 10% down, right? And whether you put 10% down, 20% down, 50% down, or 100% down, the deal does not fund until it closes. So with that being said, it doesn't really matter how much you put down, because you're still at the same risk. Now, to the seller, the more money you put down, it shows your conviction to the deal. It shows that you have the financial wherewithal to get the deal done, and that you're super serious, The downside is that you lose access to your money for no reason. So if the deal require, let's say a if 10% down on $1 million deal, $100,000 would have gotten the deal done. I mean, is the basic that people typically do. But you say I'm going to put 25%, which is $250,000. That's the extra $150,000 that you don't have for 60 days while this is all coming to fruition. Again, all of these are things that must be taken into consideration, and you really have to know what you're doing to make sure this is what you want to do. All right. Any questions on this one?
I don't see any hands. Nope.
All right, cool. Next thing you want to do, if you want to get your offer accepted, make the deal as clean as possible. Minimize your contingencies. Like you don't want to say stuff like, "Oh, I'm gonna buy this house. If I sell my house, and depending on what the bank says, and I have to get my contractor in here first to see what he has to say about this wall over here, because a seller's not trying to hear all that. What a seller wants to hear is, hey, I want to buy this house, 150,000, this, that, the other. I'll close in 30 days, blah, blah, blah. As clean as possible. The one of the things that you could do is waive all contingencies to make to make it more attractive to the seller. No concessions. No, well, I need you to do this for me at closing and give me some money back and this, that. The more complicated and convoluted, the more complicated and convoluted your deal is, the better it is for me when I come in there and be like, yo, here's my money. Let's get this popped in. 30 days from now, we close. And another thing, this is something that you got to keep in the back of your mind. Even though you waive like your like mortgage contingency or inspection contingency or financing contingencies, have to keep in the back of your mind that makes sure that this will appraise. Like it's a game of this is a game like of chess. Like you say, oh, I'm willing to take this whether it appraises or not. That's what you say, but you have to look at the property and know what you're talking about, and know that I'm only saying that because I know it's going to appraise. You have to say that I'm willing to take this property with no inspection contingency. That must mean that you have some general knowledge of structural and buildings, that you can walk through the house and see that there's nothing major that might be sneaking up on you. Like you say you're taking it with no contingencies, but before you say that you're taking it with no contingencies, make sure that you wouldn't have an issue with that in the first place. Did I say that properly? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, makes sense. Like, don't waive it if that's not something that you know about. If you need a professional in there to actually inspect the place, then don't say you're cool without having an inspection because you don't really know what you're getting into. That's how I understand it.
Exactly. And the same thing is like, oh no, it doesn't matter if it appraises or not. So the only time you say it doesn't matter if it appraises or not, if you know it's worth 500 and you're getting it for 400. So you don't want to, you make it sound like you're giving them something, but you're not really giving them anything.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. Because you know for sure, based on your homework or whatever, that it's going to appraise higher. So that doesn't need to be a contingency. And an added hurdle that might look like an added hurdle in the contract, I guess.
Exactly.